And in the studio, running for Lampasas County Judge Joanne San Miguel in the studio again. Good seeing you again, Joanne.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Here, move that mic right up to you there. Now, you were in here, what, a couple of months ago? Last month?
No, it was a few months ago.
A few months ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And now, for folks who may not know you yet, who is Joanne San Miguel, and what made you decide to run for Lampasas County Judge?
Well, I'm local. Graduated here in Lampasas High School. I have a local business as well, law office right on the square. I'm an attorney, been practicing 22 years, and had my office there in practice for 20 years.
20 years as a practicing lawyer?
Well, 22 years as a practicing attorney, and I've had my office in Lampasas for 20 years.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Clear this up here. Give me the difference between an attorney and a lawyer.
There's not really, and so I mean, there's some reference to as an attorney being actually licensed and practicing, and then anyone who passes law school, graduates from law school, can be a lawyer. So I mean, the terms are really used interchangeably, but for some, they kind of signify attorney as being licensed and practicing.
Okay. So
kind of like the Lampasas version of born and raised.
Can a lawyer go be in the courtroom, or is that just for an attorney only? Can they testify in cases or whatever in the courtroom?
Yes, good question. Well, I mean, there's varying degrees, and so you can assist on different levels, but only a licensed practicing attorney that's licensed by the state bar. Can actually practice
represent
law.
Somebody
yes, because otherwise it's what is considered unauthorized practice of law. So just because you graduate from law school
doesn't mean that you can practice. You actually have to sit for a 3-day bar exam in order to and pass that exam in order to be licensed. Okay, all right. I was always confused about that. But, tell us the experience you bring to the table for county judge.
Well, and that's one of the reasons I'm running, is that I have the combined experience in past government jobs, in the legal field, as well as the business and finance field. I also have an MBA in finance, so I understand the budgets, and I've also dealt with multi-million-dollar budgets as well. And so that combination, because the county judge wears many hats, and so given that the county operates kind of a one-stop shop, I think it's important that you know something about all of the areas that you're going to be dealing with.
Okay. What do you see as the biggest challenge in Lampasas County in the next 4 years?
For the county in general?
Yes.
Or the infrastructure. I mean, I think infrastructure and growth and the combination of the two, because we are out of resources. We're out of water. I was a little concerned. I listened to city council meeting this week, as well as county commissioners court this week, and dealing with the Kempner water issue. Mm-hmm. I'm very concerned, and that's probably because I really feel that that's going to be our biggest challenge, that we're going to be out of water, and not just water, but good clean water. And we've got development coming in. And we really need to emphasize in the infrastructure.
And that segues into my next question. Of course, Austin being right down the road, and everybody in Austin's being taxed out of their existence, and so they're moving up here.
Yes.
And so, how do you manage growth? What do you do? I mean, you put a Lampasas is closed sign, or how do you manage growth and still maintain like the Lampasas small town persona?
Right, and that's a difficult question, because if you're a conservative, have conservative principles, the free market is something that's important to us, and so we don't want to limit the free market. So as far as growth is, what's available and what's here, and as far as limiting it, there are ways in which the developers, when they come in and they're looking to develop new land, because like I said, we can't change anything about what's already existing.
Right.
There's already properties that are here. But what you can do is, when there's a new development, there are laws that they have to that govern them, and that there are approvals that they have to meet. And oftentimes, most of these developments are usually set up for private consumers, and they want to get in and now they want to flip those developments, and they want to pass the cost on to the consumer.
Right.
But there are certain things that they need to do, like there's performance bonds and there's maintenance bonds, and there's certain things that through the commissioner's court has to get approved and they have to comply with. And so making sure that they're complying with the laws and making sure that they're bringing enough money to the table. It's like, okay, if you want to build here, what are you going to contribute as far as, because it's your dump trucks that are causing the damage for the roads. And so we're going to have to eat those extra costs. So in order, as a way to control it, it's like, okay, you're going to have to bring more money to the table if you want to develop these new properties. If you want to put your money where your mouth is and do that, then, we can talk about that, the next steps. And that's one way on how to control growth, is just kind of, putting a firm hand on it and saying, we're not going to prevent you from doing it, but we're going to make sure that you're going to follow every law and you're going to do exactly what's right for the people.
Right, but when it comes to resources, how do you manage that? Because our water supply is pretty limited. I mean, last couple of years, Steele House was down dangerously low, and of course you got all these subdivisions popping up. So how do you combine the two with the growth? I'm a capitalist. I'm all for it. But how do you weigh the two between growth and resources?
Well, sometimes you're just one voice and one vote. And so, and like I said, private businesses and Kempner Water is something that would be separate. And that's an issue that they would have to take up with the developers as far as their availability. But that's another kind of way through them, is that if they tell them we don't have any water available, and I understand that's happened in the past, and they said we can't put water here, because they have to go through them to get approved too. So it's not just certain roads that are being built through the county. I mean, that's one thing that we can handle and we can deal with, but the county does not handle every single aspect of the growth. And so, like I said, the other agencies are going to have to do their part too.
Right.
And so if they don't have the water resources, they're going to have to tell them. And the builders, the developers, I mean, they're really smart people, and they know to kind of do their research first, and to go and start there and start asking to see what's available, what it can cost, before they start putting their money into a project.
Okay, so if the resources aren't there, there's no sense building. Okay, what area of the county spending needs a little scrutiny or a fresh approach? Well,
it's always going to be the largest department that has the most is what you want to look at. And so the sheriff's department is where there's a lot of budgeting, but there's also a lot of grant availability. And so that's something to look at. And I'm not saying that, the approach would be to micromanage or to overhaul that department or anything like that. But what I'm saying is to ask the right questions and to ask the sheriff, are you applying for grants? Like I said, just here recently this week, I was in Commissioner's Court, and the sheriff made a presentation, and he spoke about some grants that he's applying for. And so, being on, having one vote, one voice on Commissioner's Court is asking those questions and making sure that not only are they applying, but they're actually getting them. Because I understand that could be one of the problems as well. And if they're not getting them, then that's something where we can say, well, how can we as a county help you? Is there, other grant writing skills, and I have grant writing skills that can help, or do we need to hire a grant writer for the county to help all of the departments? I mean, I think that is also a really good idea. And as far as investment of funds, if we can hire someone who helps all of the departments with their grant writing, get more money in. Because what I've heard, like for instance on the budgeting, I saw one of the line items that it costs $20,000 for the training. They have the highest training cost of any other department, the sheriff's department, and they have more people, so that makes sense too. But I also know that there are a lot of grants available for training, first responders, law enforcement, and I spoke with some of the deputies about it, and they said, well, yeah, we're applying, so that's a good thing. We're applying, but we're not always getting the grants because we're competing against Austin. We're competing against the bigger cities. And in my mindset, I was like, no, it's not just that. It's you've got to be really good at grant writing. You've got to read the rules, follow the directions. And that's something that I've done in my past for nonprofits, and it's something that a lawyer does because we're more detail oriented, and that's just something that comes secondhand. And so asking those questions and saying, and making sure that they do the research and they compare to the other counties, because like I said, there's grants for everything. And so being able to do that and be better at grant writing so you can win those grants. I mean, there's a reason why some grants are awarded and others are not. And usually it's documentation, and it's the verbiage, it's the complete application. It all matters.
Now, let's talk transparency. Is that required as far as the grants go? Is that a mandatory thing that they would have to pursue prior to the county raising taxes on the citizens?
No. I mean, that's interoperation. So I want to make something clear. I mean, as a county judge, I think a lot of people think that it's a job of leadership and it's a job of power, but it is not.
It is a job of leadership. Yeah.
Well, and to an extent, you're really just a leader of one, because like I said, I have one voice and one vote. I'm a leader of no one. Because like I said, I'm a member of the Commissioners Court, and in a sense, you're presiding, and it's called, they say you're presiding over the court, but all that really means is that you're calling the meeting to order, and you're running the meeting and making sure that all of the items are done. And that's it. I mean, it doesn't mean that I have a greater vote than the other commissioners, the four commissioners, or that my vote is worth more than the four. Like I said, there's 5 total that's on Commissioners Court, and it's just one voice, one vote, and that I may have an input in it, and it's just having a seat at the table. Same thing with on the board on the tax appraisals district. You have one vote, one voice. I wouldn't lead the tax appraisals district. I wouldn't lead the Commissioners Court if I were county judge. I wouldn't lead the sheriff's department or the county clerk's office or the tax assessor's office. I'm not in charge of them. They are elected officials that are in charge of their own departments. But what I would bring to the table in that, and is to be the best one vote, one voice I can be, and being well informed, and then also communicating with them well. And like I said, we may have some, behind the door, closed discussions and say, hey, Sheriff, let's talk about this grant writing. How are you doing on that? And, do you need any help? Is there anything that I can do? Is there any county resources that we can allocate to help you do your job better? And so that's the role that I would play as county judge, and that's how I would interact.
Okay. So when it comes to finding money for projects, whatever, is the task of finding grants a priority before you decide to get some more taxpayer money, county residents? Do you exhaust every avenue, including grants? Well, I guess grants would be the big one, before you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we need more money from you at the end of the year?
I would, like I said, and that's my perspective. But
each department doesn't do that?
Well, like I said, each department is independent. And so, but like I said, when they bring their budgets to Commissioners Court, that's one of the questions that I'm asking. What other avenues have you looked into to decrease your budget or to find money elsewhere? What are you doing?
Right.
And so, in the same thing, like I said, and that's one of the one example we talked about, one of the largest costs, and that's why I brought up the Sheriff's Department and their largest cost, like I said, of the training comparison to the other departments. And so, like I said, in that if there is grant availability, because like I said, that's a thought that came into my head. And so what can we do, to help this process along? And as far as transparency to the public, no, the public doesn't know how their each department is raising their capital or spending their capital. it's not included in the line items. It's not what I could see. And that's something, too, that I would like to bring, talking about that transition, the transparency and modernization. I think it is important to the people. I had trouble, like I said, just going online on the website, finding the information. I mean, the information that I have now and that I know that they spend $20,000 on training is because I found it online on the budget. And not everyone is looking to do that. One thing that I found online is that it only goes back 2 years. So if I were to compare this sheriff to the other sheriff and their budgets and see, what each one was doing, I couldn't even do that online. And I think the public wouldn't be able to do that. Other issues I found that we need to modernize, I found so many examples in trying to research just for this job to find out that I found that the ordinances that are posted on the county site are not up to date. And there's no hyperlink for them. So a resident, if they had an issue, because I was sitting in Commissioner's Court and there was an issue about nuisance law, and so I wanted to know as an attorney, I was like, okay, well, what is the nuisance ordinance here for the county? I need to double check and look at that, and what does it say? I couldn't link it. It had a little note that if you want the ordinance, you have to see the county judge about it, and they'll provide you a copy. And
come on.
I emailed, and I did get a copy, and then, and like I said, and they were nice enough, Miss Need was nice enough to even walk it over to my office, because I'm literally right across the street, and give me a list and say, hey, this is what we have, and here's a note on, these are the ones we have, these are the ones that are interlocal, these are actually city ordinances that we also use, and then these are some that are missing, and we haven't found them yet. And I was like, so modernizing to get them on there, because I think people need that hyperlink. I mean, that's something simple and it's easy to do, is just, to hyperlink the ordinances so they know what the laws that they're expected to follow. And then the other thing was like the county map. I found out just here recently that the precinct I'm in has changed. And so precinct 1 and 4, the map that's posted online at the website is not accurate. And I found that from speaking directly to a commissioner. And we were talking about things after a meeting one day, and he said, I can't recall the issue, but he was talking about, let me show you the county map. And I was like, and he was having trouble finding it on his phone. I was like, oh, I've got a copy of it on my phone too. Let me find it here and pull it up. And I pulled it up and showed him. He was like, oh, no, that's not the map. I was like, what do you mean? I got this map off your county website. He was like, oh, no, this is the map. The two commissioners, we swapped some areas, and the map changed. I was like, what?
And so how do the residents know?
How do we know?
I'm running for county judge for an office that deals with the different precincts.
So who cleans that
I don't
up?
even know.
Who cleans it up?
Well, hopefully me. If you vote for me, that is an issue that I'm going to make sure. And it's a simple thing. That's not a big thing. That's modernization. I mean, that's making sure that our website is up to date.
Are records digitized over there?
So some are and some are not, and that's a good point too. And that's something that actually correlates to big money being lost. And let me explain that. So right now, I actually got a notice in the email because, like I said, as an attorney, I e-file documents, and so that's been a process. And I remember I've been practicing long enough that I remember when the digitization of the records and the e-filing started to be required. And that was the process. And we were one of the last counties to get on board for the county records. Because just the last county clerk just wasn't into modernization. I mean, I remember even saying, I will buy you a fax machine. She didn't even have a fax machine. It's like, it's not that expensive. I'll buy you a fax machine. I'm tired of walking across the street every day.
Yeah.
But the issue is none of those records were transferred over. And so, bless her, Diane Miller is a superstar, and I just can't speak highly enough of her. I got a notice, I think it was probably starting around, November, December timeframe, that she started the digitization of the property records. Mm-hmm. And so she's just starting that process, but it was great because they're starting to be online and that you have access to, and I was so excited to get that email that she started that process. But think about all the years prior to her term that have not been digitized.
Now, is this something that's done in-house, or is it farmed out?
I don't know. That's a good question for her. I don't. I don't know that. I would think that it's probably something that's done in-house.
I would hope so. I can imagine what it would cost to farm that out.
Right. Well, and that's one of the issues that I found when a landowner had come into me and wanted to do a deed transfer. And that's how I found that there's missing money in the county, and that it's the modernization is the problem. The digitization of the records is the problem, because they came in and said, I need to transfer this property over to a cousin. And I had to tell her, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this because you already transferred it to your daughter. You can't give it away twice. You already gave it away to your daughter. Why do you think that it didn't transfer to her? And she said, well, because I still get the bills from LCAD in my name. And so, and this lady is a senior and her daughter is not. And so actually we had to call and have her get off of work to come to the law office to sign the deed so then she could transfer it over to the cousin. I was like, I can do it, but she's the owner. She has to do it. And then when I looked back, it was back during the prior administration of the prior clerk administration 11 years ago, which means that's 11 years that that improper taxes were collected because she got the senior rate, so she got a reduced rate. The person who should have been paying the taxes, and even though they're related, so they had the bill, and even though she was, staying there, she just, she took care of it. And so that's just one example. And if that's just one that just walked in my door a few months ago, then there's lots more. And the other thing is that because of my county and court network experience, I remember back then, I remember having problems when I was doing deeds. It would take 3 to 6 months to get a deed recorded and then over to the appraisal office. So as far as it being recorded in the office, I mean, it would take, maybe a few days, up to a week max to actually get it recorded there at the clerk's office. This clerk actually has a much faster turnaround. It's probably usually same day or next day, I would say. So that's one thing, is that the process has improved as far as speed and as far as efficiency. But the issue I was having, like I said, years ago, I remember that, 11 years ago, wasn't something that that particular deed was another attorney that did that and had explained to her, look, you had a good attorney, the clerk, they stamped it, what happened? And so what the disconnect is from the clerk's office, their delay in getting it over to the appraiser office is one disconnect. The other one is it's the data entry people. So like I said, and it's not the county clerk, and the county clerk always takes responsibility for anything. If you're an elected official, you have to take responsibility. It's on you. But it more than likely was her clerks not processing the deeds fast enough and making sure either not sending it over entirely or not processing it fast enough that caused the problem and the delay. And then it's also a combined failure on the Lampasas Appraisal District for their clerk level employees who didn't do the data entry. Then again, the appraisal district also has to take the hit for that because they're the ones who oversee their employees and making sure that everything got scanned in and got digitized and got included, the names got updated, and that should have been done. And so that's where, that's what I'm saying, that's the disconnect, and that's something as the county judge, because I have prior experience with it, I know that has happened in the past. And so I know to make sure and ask those questions and make sure that gets fixed. And I can say I do trust the current county clerk and that she's doing everything she can to modernize the system. And then once it's online, I mean, think about it. So if it's online, anybody can check to see if it got transferred over. And then even the appraisal district can call and they can check on their maps and they can compare and say, they don't need to wait on the records. They can just check them online. I mean, a lot of times I use the Lampasas County Appraisal District information online all the time when I'm doing deeds or when I'm doing divorces and looking at property. I need legal descriptions. I need information. I've actually even called them myself and reported technical problems. I'm saying, hey, I've been trying your website. It's not working. We're going on I gave it a day. Now we're going on day 2. We're having problems. And they actually thanked me and said, well, thank you for letting us know because I'm one of those frequent users. To let them know that there's a problem. And that's important. That's something that anyone in the public, if you can notice, a website's not accurate, it's not, up to date, or it's not working and functioning, they may or may not know. Mm-hmm. So being that voice and calling them, don't think that you're bugging them. It may be something that they didn't know and they need to, and they can fix it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How often is the county audited?
That question I do not know. I know we do have a county auditor, and every year there's the fiscal year. As far as I think the question you're asking, like, is there a state audit, and whether the state you can request a state audit, and how often they do that, I don't know. But the county audit, I mean, that's an ongoing process, and every year
So
they're
everybody
required to
knows
provide
where
an
every
audit.
penny is then, right?
Well, I mean, yes and no. And so, like I said, I mean, what you get is a spreadsheet, and you get some line items, but you don't get a lot of specifics. And so, it in general, these are expenses like training, like wages, those type of things in general. But you don't know. It doesn't say. Well, this is so many employees who went to training, or we did in-house training, or we outsourced, and this was
generalized,
included,
yeah.
right, this included the hotel and the gas, or this is just the cost for the program. It doesn't give you all those finer details. Those finer details are what comes out in commissioner's court, or what should come out in commissioner court, as far as the questions. When someone is bringing a budget, you ask those type of questions. It's like, well, how many people are included in this, and what cost does it cover? Does it cover transportation? Does it cover the training, educational material in the program? Does it cover travel? What does it include? And how can we spend less money?
Now, is that audit available online?
Everything should be available online. But like I said, again, I've come into problems, so I can't guarantee anything, because everything I've tried to look up online, I've found has been outdated,
Right.
and or very limited in the information. I have tried to, I've looked for things, and I did find, like I said, the budget for the last couple of years. So,
Okay.
but it's,
Yeah, but if a John Doe taxpayer wants to know how last year's audit went and how much money they're spending, he should be able to go online, theoretically, and see how much was brought in and how much is going out and what's in the coffers, right?
right. Oh, absolutely. And I think it helps the department heads too, because the department heads, I mean, they're busy working. I mean, they don't necessarily have time to sit down and take appointments for every taxpayer to come in and explain the budget to them. So I think the more transparent you are in providing that online, the less questions that you're going to get from the public.
Right, yeah. Well, when you say they don't have time, don't run for office. I know everybody's got a job, but, I mean, if your job is to take care of the taxpayers, shouldn't that be the priority, if you're going to be in that seat?
Oh, absolutely. And you should have an open door policy. And I think every department head should have an open door policy. And I would have an open door policy. But as far as efficiency, because you can't just have everyone coming in all at once, because you have other duties. So if I had criminal court, for instance, is on Tuesday. So obviously Tuesday is not a good day to come. Then there's
Right, but I mean,
probate
that
courts
takes
that
the
are-
whole thing, if it's digitized.
Right, if
you-
it's
you say-
digitized, and that's what I'm saying,
Right.
it's available, so they may have less questions, and that's not saying they're prevented from coming in to speak to you, but I think you'll have less questions and issues, so then you can limit the time, and you can focus that, or have a specialized day where here's my open
Right.
open door
Yeah.
policy hours, or on these days this was available, and also post that online and say, look, I'm every Wednesday morning from 8 to 10 I'm free. Come on by and let's chat. So that way that you can also budget that time and away from your other duties,
Right.
because there's
okay.
always plenty to do.
Yeah, I know you guys have to make a living. I got that. But you're right. There should be some time set aside if somebody has a question that should be available.
Yes, and I know, and Commissioners Court does set aside some time, so that is something too. And all you have to do is sign up on the list. And so, I mean, there are some rules in place, and like I said, they just need to know, who's coming, so they can allocate that time. So, and that's the same reason for like an open door policy and allocating some time, is that you can't, take a dozen people at one time. They may say, okay, well, we've already got 3 people signed up for open comments. Do you mind if we put you on the next Commissioners Court meeting, so that way we can allow you to have your full say? Because you don't want to cut people off and not let them feel like they haven't been
Right.
heard either. But so that's why, like I said, you've got to sign up ahead of time. There are, like I said, rules in place. But yes, any taxpayer can come to Commissioners Court.
Can they
and
discuss
have-
anything other than what's on the docket?
That's my understanding. They can come and ask anything, and I've seen that. I don't see the public use it as much. I know since
Which
I've
is sad. Yeah.
well, and I think and here's the other problem, and I'm glad you bring that up because that ties into the modernization too. The other problem is Commissioner's Court is at 9 a.m. in the morning. I can go because I'm right across the street, and like I said, I'm self-employed, so I'm not going to fire myself.
Everybody else
for
has to
missing
take
the
off.
time, right? But if you work, and because that's prime working time on Monday morning at 9 a.m., you can't attend Commissioner's Court. And so, so this is something that I'd like to borrow from City Council. The city government I think does really well.
Put it on YouTube.
Put it on YouTube. Yes. Put it
The
on.
county still hasn't done that?
No.
Oh, come on now.
No.
This is 2026.
And so I've attended in person, and then I've also attended, in my pajamas at home in bed watching city council meetings.
yeah.
Yes, and it's great.
So what prevents them? Just doing it? I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of technology to put yourself on YouTube there.
Well, like I said, I can't speak for the past. I can only tell you that that's something that I intend to do to modernize and to make, because that provides accountability.
Right.
That provides visibility. That allows for transparency for the taxpayer to know what's going on. Because like I said, those discussions about the budget, I think they would want to know that. I mean, and that's something they can watch and they may not be able to appear in person and they may be working, but they may be able to put on a pair of headset, like me while they're working,
Right.
or cleaning the house or,
Yeah,
feeding the kids or whatever they're doing.
That should be 101.
And,
Yes.
and listen in. I mean, that's what I would do, and that's what I do with the city council, which is why, like I said, I think what they do it well, and I would like the county to mirror the city in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys they work hard over there, but I think there's need to catch up with the times a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right, anything that we need to discuss that we haven't yet?
I just want to make sure, like I said, I think clear that it's not, just a leadership job. It's a job that has many hats, and it has a financial hat, it has a legal hat, it has a government hat, it has an emergency management hat, and I think that's important that the public know. One other PSA I forgot online with modernization. One issue I want to make sure that people know, the public, is that the election office is having issues with their getting, there's some new software that came in, and so they're having some snags, which is going to cause some delay in sending out your voter registration card. So if you did apply recently for your voter registration card, you may not get that in the mail. So show up to vote anyway, and
Use your ID. can't you?
you can use your ID.
Okay.
But a lot of people, I think, if they don't know that, and this hasn't been broadcasted out, and it's because I've been dealing with the elections office and turning in reports and asking questions, and that I found out this information. And so that's something too, modernizing, letting the public know. It's like, hey, if you've applied for your registration card recently, don't wait on it to come in before you go vote. Just go vote and bring your driver's
Oh,
license.
well, that should be on the county's webpage.
That is good to know.
So
I don't know if it's on there, but it needs to be. Okay. All right, so early voting starts the 17th?
17th through the 27th.
So-
Yes, and March 3rd is the is
It's
election
the
day.
election day.